This is Talk with TAS, a radio experience hosted by Dr. Teresa A. Smith, a licensed counselor and professor focused on the transformative journeys of her guests and the lessons they've learned along the way. She's also an author, speaker, and nationally known social media personality. Join her now as she interviews newsmakers, artists, authors, and more. You will learn something new. This is Talk with TAS. Here's your host, Dr. Teresa A. Smith, also known as Dr. TAS.
I have with me today Felicia Brookins. Felicia is an award-winning author, and when I say award-winning, I'm not even going to try to name all of the awards that she's received for her book. Her book is called Sister Nadeen, and Sister Nadeen it's a thick book now, I'm going to tell you. But Sister Nadeen is a book that if you haven't read it, you need to read it. It is what she calls reality, Christian reality. And it really is. I can relate to the storyline, and I'm sure that you'll be able to relate to the storyline too. So I'm going to let Felicia tell you a little bit about herself. You know, she's a Southern Belle also. And so, Felicia, tell the audience about yourself. And again, welcome to my kitchen.
Thank you for having me, Dr. TAS. It's good to hang out with you in your kitchen today. I'm looking forward to what we come up with. So as you told them earlier, my name's Felicia Brookins. And yes, I am an award-winning Christian fiction / Christian reality author. I am married to this handsome brown-eyed bow-legged man I call Jason. Yes, darling. I have one handsome son.
Wow.
I am working on several other projects right now as far as book writing. And I also am the founder of a aspiring authors and writers workshop called Inspired Resources LLC. I started a virtual event called Prison to Pens. And that's an event where previously incarcerated individuals who are writing books or doing the spoken word come on and share how the freedom that has taken place in being able to express themselves through writing. Also, we mentioned earlier about my husband being a minister. So, hey, of course, we striving and loving God and trying to get it right here on this earth and use up all our gifts and talents so that when we go to rest, it's nothing left.
Now, when you were at Southern Miss, did you know at that time that you would become an author? Or was that what you were aspiring to at the time?
I had written a few plays, written a few poems, did a few chats when it came to step shows from a sorority. So it was kind of natural to me, but I never thought you can write a book or you can do a stage play. And I really blossomed when I got in my 30s. And then, the idea came, I could do this. I could write a book.
Well, now, sorority. Now, what sorority are you a part of?
Zeta, of course. Do not forget to enunciate the T.
Okay. Zeta.
Oh, yes, you did that so good. Yes, ma'am.
Now, I can't just say Zeta and not mention Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
You can't, Teresa. We're gonna be good. We're gonna be good.
Absolutely not, because we sister girls. We both got the blonde hair going,
right.
Same complexion. It's all in love. And you got your pearls on. I don't have on any pearls, but it's all in love.
That's it.
Yeah,
and that right there. That's the tick. Because at the end of the day, we are all trying to help our communities and help each other. And when we step out these doors, Teresa, people see us as Black women. They could care less about the color of the shirt that we got on.
I read the book. There's some addiction that's happening. There's contradictions that are going on also. There's code switching with some characters. What was the inspiration for you to take all those different things and masterfully put them together to give us Sister Nadeen? How'd you do it?
Well, I will start by saying that when it comes to fiction, I truly believe that there's no way it can be written without some personal experiences sprinkled in it. And so I used to always say, this book is like a big pan of macaroni and cheese, and I sprinkle the truth through it like it was a great big pan. and stirred it up. So there are people that I have crossed paths with as I've grown up that influence some of the things in this book. There are things I've heard, seen that influence the things in this book. Some of my own personal issues growing up. So it is a lot in this book. It's a quilt. That's what that book is. It's a traumatic quilt.
Mm-hmm. Now, you use the term traumatic and you use the word quilt, and I immediately think about my grandmother, and she would make quilts, and they had the I think it's called the sawhorse. I'm not sure what it would be called, but it's that little wooden thing that they would lay the board on.
Yeah.
And I can remember we'd be all up under, and she'd be like, get up and up under that. But I remember her taking pieces of cloth and she would piece them together to make that quilt that would keep us warm. But then you use the word traumatic quilt. The things in the book could be perceived as traumatic for those characters. Why do you believe it is easier for church folks to think about things from a spirit perspective instead of dealing with some of the themes that we know are in the book that I've kind of highlighted from a mental health perspective?
Well, first of all, I think when it comes a lot of times to church people or who are supposed to be kingdom citizens, we focus more on, I have to make sure that I have the image of holiness. And so the image of holiness, it's a certain way I talk, certain way I walk, certain thing I wear, and I have to look and hold myself up a certain way. And so that way has to be that all times I'm just blessed and highly favored and everything's just wonderful in my life. And so mental health issues and trauma that's passed down has no place in that picture, in that image. And so when you step into the sanctuary or you come into a crowd where there's supposed to be other kingdom citizens there also, you put that on. So mental health, we're not going to show that there's any type of problems going on, but you forget that when you get home, you're not acting in the likeness of a kingdom citizen. And so the people in your home or that are very close to you will see the true you. And sometimes you don't see the true you because you're so wrapped up in being holier than thou, but they see, you don't see the trauma. And you said something really interesting, Teresa. You said, your grandmother used to have the quilt over the sawhorse and she would say, come from under that thing. Well, that's it right there. A lot of people don't have anybody to ever say you need to come from under that trauma. You put that trauma on and you wore it so long, it's like a coat. So that quilt, you said it kept us warm. Don't you realize unconsciously that trauma keep you warm? You're so used to being wrapped up in that trauma. Nobody has reached out and said, come from under that. Because you don't know you're under it. You don't even know you're wearing it.
Mm-hmm. I've been looking at some different things, with my new book, Transformation. And I'm at this point with it right now with the realization that we sometimes don't understand our coping mechanisms and how coping mechanisms, as you just said, sometimes we put it on and it keeps us warm, but it keeps us in the same space and we have yet to transform. But then when you realize that and you take that off and you are beginning to transform into who you truly are, that's when those around you are like, who does she think she is?
Yeah.
But you see, you didn't even realize, as you said, that I'm still carrying that. And now I'm carrying not the actual trauma anymore. I'm carrying whatever coping mechanism that I chose to use to deal with the trauma. But that still, you didn't free yourself.
Right. The residue is still there. And I think it's so interesting that your book is titled Transformation, because the workbook that I'm creating with this, the title of it is Transformation. The workbook is to help a woman work through, or maybe even a man, work through and transform, everything about you, to wash off that residue once and for all. I always say I am a generational trauma survivor, but I'm not a conqueror of it. because there's a difference. So I survived my own experiences and I survived my interactions with other people, but those things affected me in some way. And so I haven't completely conquered those things, you know.
Do you think that we'll ever, I'm very open about my traumas, sexual abuse and those sorts of things. But do you think that we will ever really conquer them totally?
My prayer is that God will give me peace with that. And there are times when I can go years or a month and not have something that triggers the things in the way that I react and what happens to me. I always feel like when my husband married me, he saw me but didn't really see me. He married me, but he didn't know coming down the aisle with me was all that trauma. He didn't know coming down the aisle to him was my nightmares. I'm 40, 50 years old. I'm having nightmares. I mean, so intense to the point that I can feel, if you know what it's like to wake up and actually feel fear, the grip of it in the body, where it's almost like he has to come and get me out of this place.
Yeah.
So, he married me. He didn't know that came, all he saw was the white dress. He didn't see the trunk full of all that trauma coming down there to him.
But, I think that it takes a special man to be able to deal with that also, because as women, we have to be able to be vulnerable, but yet we're Black women, so we're taught that we have to be strong. So he's dealing with two different people. Like you said, he's dealing with the woman in the white dress. She's got it all together. She's beautiful. But then he's dealing with, and I'm going to say it this way, that little girl or that teenager who still got all these other issues that she's dealing with. And so sometimes you don't know which person's going to show up to the party. You speak to me, is it going to be me, the adult, or is it going to be that little girl? Yeah. Because you don't know what may have triggered me that day that then is influencing my behavior. Yeah. So, it takes a strong person to deal with that. But also, I think the awareness that we have of it also is so important. Because as you said, and I'm thinking about one of our characters in the book, sometimes, you don't see the trauma, because I was amazed when what was happening with one of the children had actually happened to the adult. But she had blocked that out. She'd completely forgotten it, but that was her way of coping. Right. And, it's ironic, because I always look at generational curses, because that's the term that I've always heard in churches as it relates to things. Yeah. But as you said, it's trauma is passed down. And that's the way I've always looked at it. We sometimes never deal with that trauma. So it gets visited on the next person in the family, the next generation, and so on, till it becomes a generational curse because of our inability, or our forefathers, whomever it was, inability to deal with that trauma for what it was. Do you think when we look at our forefathers that they understood that it was trauma?
I think they understood it as, this is just the way that it is. It is learned behavior that we are comfortable with and used to. And you can go so far back as to say it's something you picked up from the master and Miss Ann on how to treat each other. And so we brought it into our households and our families, and that's how we treated each other. And that's just the way it's supposed to be done. They imitate what they saw. And so it must be right. It must be true. So no, we don't see this as trauma. This is just how we deal with things. This is how we do. This is how we are. And this is how you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to react to it. And of course, you do not say anything about it, especially as a child. You don't say anything. You don't make any comments. You don't have any emotions or feelings about this. And so it just keeps going, and you keep doing what mama did. Sometimes you do what mama or daddy did that used to terrorize you, and for some strange reason you forget that's what it did, and you start doing it to your babies.
Yes.
And you forget, but this happened to you and you didn't feel good about it. You were mad about it, angry about it, but it's what you know. So you imitate, you unconsciously are doing this. And so you are releasing it into the atmosphere. What goes up has to come down. So it comes down into your household, your family, your children, your husband, people you interact with that you want, to see that side of you. And you justify that because, hey, my mom and dad did. So I was all right. You're going to be all right.
Now, you hit on quite a few things there, Felicia. The justification. Because we're kind of quick sometimes to justify anything. You can justify anything if you work at it hard enough. Yeah. But it is learned behavior. Mm-hmm. But is there any real justification? If we were honest.
Not really. We just, it's almost like generation before, more than 2 generations back, when they would say, because I said so. Yep. That's it. I don't need to explain nothing else to you.
Because I said so.
Because I said so, that's it. Or why is mama acting that way? Why is dad acting that way? Just go to your room, don't say nothing else to me. Or why is it that you jump so quick and beat me over something that small? Because you should have did this or that. Instead of saying, mama had a hard day at work and I'm sorry that I took it out on you. You're not getting that.
No. Now, my question becomes then, I think maybe it's Teddy Roosevelt says, and I'm going to butcher this quote, but you basically do the best that you can with what you have is the essence of it. So when it comes to our forefathers, and like you said, some things came in with master and the mistress, because we learned things from them and it just got passed down. Have you gotten to a place as it relates to your trauma where you're able to forgive those who either perpetrate the trauma or did not protect you from the trauma?
I would say that I have. I would say as I grew older and learned more about why the person was that way, it helped me a great deal in being able to forgive them. There are 1 or 2 things I occasionally struggle with, especially involving this young man that molested me at the age of 16. And for a long time, I struggled with, if I saw him, I just had to immediately leave because the anger that just came up inside of me, that I wanted to say, how dare you even come in my face, and I hate you. And so I had to constantly pray on that. And he passed a few years ago. And I, even then I had to say, God, help me not to celebrate that or be happy about that, because that's not right. So I've grown a lot with that. But if I pass by his house or see a member of his family that I know knows about that, it's just something just comes over me. It's not hate or dislike. It's it's a tension. Mm-hmm. So some ways I have, some things I haven't 100%.
Well, I've talked with lots of people and they sort of said different things, but sort of the same thing, that, when they think about the person or they come in their presence or individuals who know about it, it's a tenseness. Our bodies have that physical reaction, and you don't know whether you're going to flee or you're going to stay there. But it's a protection that's really happening for us when that's happening, but it's an uncomfortable feeling. Because not only do you realize it from a mental, psychological, then your heart, but then your body reacts to it.
Yeah.
And it's just a very.
And you want to just leave. You want to just, and it's not that person's fault, but you trigger the memory that causes me to feel this way, and I'm just not comfortable.
Now you love to read. Was reading an escape for you back when you were in your teenage years, or was that already implanted in you, this love of reading?
I would say my love of reading was already implanted in me. My mom encouraged us to read. I was always excited about going to the library, getting as many books as I can, being in the summer reading program. We had Black History Library, all kinds of stuff. So I loved to read. My escape came in the form of a diary that I had, because that diary allowed me to release a lot of things that I felt emotionally, that I could put on paper. And so that helped me to be able to deal with a lot of things, because I couldn't always tell things that were going on with me, especially, sad enough, even with this sexual assault. I couldn't just go out and tell that. It was a few people that knew, close friends I knew, would keep it confidential, but I really had to write that down and say what I thought and felt when that happened. So I would say a diary, releasing it and getting it out on paper. So,
Well, yeah, that was really the beginnings of your writing.
I guess so. I
Because
never really just saw it that way. I just saw it as a way of getting out what I was feeling.
Felicia, now I want to backtrack a little bit. You had a tagline: setting the emotional, spiritual, and mental captive free, even if that includes me.
And when you say that, I get emotional. Just hearing you say that. Yeah.
Captive. The word captive there, what does that mean for you personally?
It means, first of all, that again, I haven't completely conquered the things that the trauma that caused me to react in certain ways, the trauma that causes me to have nightmares, the trauma that can cause me to respond to my husband or my son or someone else in a manner that maybe I shouldn't, but I'm so used to responding that way, or I took it a certain way and I responded and I shouldn't have. So those things are still kind of they got a hold on me. And so I want to be to help somebody else get free, even if that's me and includes me. So let's do it together. Let's recognize it together. And for me to even know that that's what that is, that's huge. And when you said it, I just, because I know that it's still a lot of it there. I tell my husband, sometimes it can be so traumatizing to me that you have to be careful how you say my name. He can say my name a certain way, and I can feel the tension, the balls in my stomach. It's a certain way he says my name. And first I'm scared, and then I get mad. And I say, don't say my name like that. And I tell him, that what that does to me, don't say my name like that. But he's just calling me. But it's the tone I hear is connected with something that was traumatizing me from a long time ago. And so it still got me.
Well, I appreciate your willingness to be honest and to be vulnerable with the audience, because people think that even in this age, in this century, that you just get over stuff. It doesn't. You just don't get over it. You don't just get over it. Whether it's, and trauma really does expand many different things, because we talked about incest here, but there's emotional trauma, psychological trauma. So, and those things can happen to us even as adults.
Yes.
So, and then people think that you're just going to get over it. I may be strong enough to be cordial and help you, because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to turn the other cheek, and we're supposed to help our fellow man. But it doesn't mean that I've gotten over. I've forgiven.
That's right.
But doesn't mean that I've gotten over the harm that you did.
Right.
Now, what do you think when then people try to make it about them? You were the person that was harmed. in whatever way, whether we're talking about when you're 16 or anything that's happened since then or before then. But individuals want to make it about them.
Part of that, I think, is the shame that would come with having to look in the mirror and say, I really did do that, and I really did cause that, and I really was wrong. Some of it can be prideful. Some of it can be, again, you have to remember that the victimizer was a victim.
Victim too.
And so just like it was justified by the person that did it to them, they're going to justify why they did it to you. And they don't want to hear you tell them anything to point the finger back at them, because it is your fault. It's not my fault that I'm traumatized and I brought this into this marriage and into this family. That's not my fault that I respond the way I saw my mom or dad respond, because that's just not my fault. It's you made me do this. And when you did that, I responded to you the way I was taught and what I know. So it's your fault. If you hadn't done it or said it, pissed me off, it wouldn't have happened.
And, you know, I really don't want us to go draw to a conclusion, but I know we have to, because I know you got your hands in a lot of things, and you want to have your hands in a few things in the kitchen. You know, you were talking about, can we do some greens? And for those who might not know what we talk about, I was like, yeah, we can do some greens, and I don't have any turnips and all this different stuff. But, you know, your hands are in so many things, but you hit on something with that. It is very easy to recondition yourself to believe that you are totally to be held harmless from everything that you've done. You can be like the Tasmanian devil and destroy all these other people, but you're not at fault.
That's right. It's their fault.
It's their fault.
And you don't see it as trauma. You just see it as something that a reaction that they deserved. This was the reaction that you wanted, you got it. If you didn't want this reaction, then you shouldn't have done or said it. Or you should have done or said it, and you didn't.
You didn't.
You know, and I want to add to one of the things I realized over the last couple of months, and it was like something just went pow. It was like, as Lisa Nichols said, that break out loud moment. Trauma can look so, people can be looking right at trauma and it looks so normal that it doesn't look like trauma. You can be operating in it. And I would say the example I want to give for that is being busy. Believe it or not, I'm extremely busy. I do a lot of things. Why do I do those things? That's trauma. Trauma makes you move. Trauma makes you do those things.
Come on.
You know, being pushed down.
Yes.
Makes you do those things. Well, now I'm free to do all these things and I'm going to do them all. It's something I cannot fulfill this whole. I have to constantly be doing something. I got to constantly be organizing something. I got to constantly be managing something. I got to go. Why are you like that? We use this cute little term and I use it all the time. I'm a social butterfly. I love to go. I love to be involved. I love to be busy. You can give me 10 things on the list. It's a lot, but it fulfills me. I love it. Why is that? That's trauma. So again, I'm still a captive myself in that way, but it's a different kind of trauma that doesn't hurt. You think it feel good, but I promise you it's trauma. You just don't recognize the feelings from before. Trauma always hurt you. So you didn't realize that this is the residue of that. It just has changed forms. It's still there.
Mm-hmm. We were supposed to get together right now.
Right
now. And because, like I said earlier, I'm thinking about that. Now, you say it's still trauma. And so I'm glad that you're saying it that way. I'm thinking about it from the perspective, it is sometimes the coping mechanism put in place to deal with the trauma that you didn't realize that you were still dealing with, because it's in a different package.
It interfolds itself. It intertwines.
Oh, yes. Yes, and looks so good. But like you said, do you really like to do that? Or is that the way that you manage life?
And you've been doing it so long, you don't even know. The feeling of managing it, having control of it, you think feels good.
Yes.
Right.
So again, thank you so much, Felicia, for being with me today. And to our audience, thank you for being with me. And until next time, always, always take care of you. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to Talk with TAS with Dr. Teresa A. Smith. For more information on this show and Dr. TAS, you should visit AskDrTaz.com. That's AskDrTaz.com. Talk with TAS is a production of DQ Consulting, LLC. Dr. Teresa Smith, executive producer.